So learning the language was very important to you, obviously, because you wanted to be able to have a conversation with the locals, which was very admirable because a lot of people don't care and didn't give a fuck. They're like, if you don't speak English, well, then, we'll use sign language or like piss off. I don't want to talk to you, right? Why did you feel you needed to learn the language? You didn't know how long you were going to be there.
Good God! I mean, in South America, if you can't speak Spanish, you're a little bit fucked. It's a fascinating continent. I mean, English, anywhere in the world almost you're okay. I mean, if you go to even in the East, in Southeast Asia, most places you're fine. South America, if you say yes or no, people go like, what? They don't understand. It's as simple as that. People don't speak English in that continent. Broadly speaking, so you really have to learn a bit of Spanish, So that was one part. And the other part is, for some reason, I always wanted to learn Spanish. And it's amazing how these things work, Leigh. I mean, like 20 years ago, when I was working in the UK, I almost started studying Spanish there. Why the hell was I going to do that in the UK? But it's always called me, So it's amazing how these synchronicities and these things work, So it's always been a call. So it was just great. I wanted to really connect with the people by speaking the language. And to be quite honest with you, they're beautiful women in South America. And, I wanted to talk to them. And, there's no way you're going to, obviously then I got, we'll probably talk about the celibacy thing, but then the celibacy thing came in. But I also thought it was important to talk the language, to interact with the people.
I can just imagine all those first words and sentences you wanted to learn, all those pickup lines. But to just impress them, eh? Did it work? Come on.
No, I don't know. I was terrible. I was terrible with the language.
I don't believe you. You didn't need language, Lenerd. You didn't need the language. So, sign language. So, let's fast forward a bit. I want to ask you about that first, because you didn't know, or you weren't interested your whole life, basically, about understanding more about the esoteric world, the world of spiritual wisdom. You said you dabbled. You read a few books or brought them along on this trip. But when was that first face-to-face moment where on your travels, whether you were still in Peru or not, where you can say that the world of mindfulness and awareness started to resonate with you? Started to really not so much integrate, but just started to resonate, where you didn't roll your eyes and go, "Oh God, this person's a bit of a wacky."
Yeah, it's fascinating. Maybe I can just mention, before I left South Africa, the last 6 months when I was here, I started reading a book, The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari, right, by Robin Sharma, and that kind of helped me a bit. I mean, to actually leave and to leave the stuff. So and I was starting to read Paulo Coelho books, when I was over there. So in some way, these callings and things were coming to me, and like in a subtle way, I suppose. But then to answer your question in terms of South America, very much after I got very ill with the parasites, and I was fucked. I was like a lean 82 kg when I left South Africa. I was really, really in great shape. And it was not just the sex. I was doing martial arts. I was doing boxing. I was swimming in a swimming pool at the gym and doing workouts. And during the week I didn't party. I only partied on the weekends. So I was in the best shape of my life. And then in Ecuador I got parasites, and I dropped 10 kgs of pure muscle. Not just muscle. Like from 82 to 72. So by the time I got to Guatemala, 6-7 months later, I was, the things were eating me up alive. I had 4 courses of antibiotics, and the antibiotics were going to kill me before the parasite, before the antibiotics were going to kill the parasites. It's as simple as that. It didn't do a dent in the parasites. And then I arrived at the lake, Lago Atitlan, Lake Atitlan in Guatemala, this beautiful lake high up in the mountains. And there, someone asked the guy at the hostel there, is there anyone here that know natural course, remedies for parasites? Because I was given up hope with the normal remedies. And then he just told me about a guy around the corner, Dr. Bill, go and see the guy. He's quite famous there in the village and deliver kids. It's a shamanic guy and from a North American Indian tribe, but also a medical degree in a master's degree in psychology and all of that stuff. And in any event, when I arrived there at Dr. Bill's place, and he just looked at me and he pointed to my stomach and he said, "Oh, I can see the energy leaking there." That's where I went, what the fuck? Normally I would have been out of there, because, for me it was about, is it physical? Is it tangible? That's what my left brain, that's always been my life, But I was so damn desperate that I would have ran around the lake, and it's a pretty big lake, a few times if he told me that and stand on my head, if that was going to help. So I just listened to this guy, and out of that, a few things followed, that he told me and referred me to, and that's really where things started changing.
So now, with that change, obviously, when you first got to South America and you were traveling and you were learning Spanish and meeting people, and it was beautiful and it was warm and summer and swimming in the ocean and living in hostels and meeting all different people and women, hopefully.
Yeah, I was meeting women, but I wasn't doing anything with them. I had this kind of crazy celibacy space.
So now, how did the celibacy grab you and take hold of you after having come out of this sexual dream world that you were living, just a few months before? You hit South America, you're traveling now, you're single. You want to meet chicks. You said that's why you want to learn the language.
No, sure.
And now you're suddenly going to be celibate. So how did that happen and why?
Yeah, no, it was very clear that that was part of the journey. I even went to do salsa dance classes. So to to be able to at least socially interact with people and with women there. In South America, if you can't dance, you're also a bit fucked. You have to speak the lingo and you have to be able to dance. So that was very much the space that I was in. But I arrived there in January, Leigh, and it was amazing. I just didn't. Whenever I would interact, and I was staying in these hostels with a lot of beautiful, women around. A lot of people there, a lot of really amazing people that I met along the road. But I would just have the interaction, have a discussion, and on the physical side, I could feel like wow, I'm interested to interact here. And the moment it looked as if it was going to anything physical, I would just emotionally withdraw, and my soul would draw, my emotion would draw, and I would actually, and the chicks would feel it, and they would go like, okay, that's weird, and I couldn't explain it, so it wasn't a mind thing, it's easy to say, oh, I made up my mind, I'm going to be celibate. It wasn't. My mind never decided any of this. It is just this strong inner voice that became so loud, when I talk about the voice there in the book on page 2030 about surrendering to the voice, to leave everything and to go on this journey. So the same voice was saying to me, hey man, take it easy, back off a bit, and take a break. So I was just listening to that voice, and so that's how that happened. That's how it just happened and eventually I kind of stopped interacting with women because they thought I was playing games. I'm like talking to them and then I'm just withdrawing. But it was an amazing thing. In hindsight, I know it makes a lot of sense, but then it was also very confusing.
Now, of course, I was just going to say that it must have been a very confusing time because it's not like you had impotence, and the desire had always been there. And the desire was there on a level, but on a deeper level, sure. It was on a soul level. Do you think that this voice, your time had come where you actually had to, the healing that had to take place on the emotional, physical, spiritual levels in your body was such that you needed to actually preserve yourself physically, parasites aside?
Oh, sure.
Were you even aware of the fact that was your healing that was actually starting to take place? Or were you so confused about feeling that you needed to stay celibate even though you wanted to be with the woman? Were you scared?
I wouldn't say I was. Maybe in a way I was scared. I was definitely confused. To be honest with you, I didn't understand it as healing then. I mean, in hindsight, it's very clear that's exactly what it was. But then I didn't understand it. Maybe there was some softer voice saying, this is important. I mean, that's why I followed it. It was easy to override that. And in my journey, in that for 2-year period of celibacy, there were phases that I did override it. And Meta, overrode it. And it's in the book. And, after a week of that or two, I just went, fuck, this is, okay, I'm overriding this, but this is not what I want. So for 99% of the time, I was listening to the voice, for the whole period. And it was hell of a confusing then. Now, in hindsight, it's crystal clear. I had to integrate my own inner feminine. I had to stay away from the outer feminine. I had to go this deep inner journey.